Well, two videos in one day, look at me. So I had something to deal with. Nothing important, just a few messages. But I am back, and let's get after it. The attendee list. So I have a queue list which takes pointers to registration objects called m underscore attendee list. And I should have 5 functions. I do not have a constructor. Yeah, there's no constructor, but I do have a destructor registration list. And this will mainly serve the purpose. Let me add a comment. Deallocate memory from the heap. Because clearly we are using pointer objects here. Okay. And the first important function I have is a Boolean function called add registration, which I spelled wrong. And it should take in a registration pointer. Spelled that wrong as well. Come on. What is happening? Registration. A pointer called R. R. Okay. And that's a boolean, and I then have another boolean called is registered. Registered. Yeah. registered. Registered. Which will take in a Q string called n, which obviously represents a name. And I will then have a double function called total fee, and that is a Q string. Why is there a Q string? It should, oh, the type. Oh, so it should have multiple ways. Okay. Look at me, I'm picking up on things. And then I'll have another function called int, and this one is total registration. This one's very straightforward. It's just the size of my queue list. But for some reason, it also takes a variable. Very weird. Maybe it's not so straightforward. And that's 5, and let me just add definitions. And this should also go. I wonder if I can add multiple at one time. Refactor, clang, create getter and setter, create implementation for member functions. Create implementations for member functions. I wonder, what will that do? It can't be done on one, but if I select multiple, it can. That's very interesting. And finally, I can add that one. I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think the easiest thing for me to do is first of all go figure out my queue lists, because I have not used them in a while, so it's good if I just go ahead and refresh my memory. Queue list. So yesterday, as I showed you, you can definitely just pull up on the right hand side a helpful menu that essentially will tell you everything that the online documents will tell you. However, it is just easier to just read the docs online, in my opinion. And here we go. So if I go back to my registration list, it states that a registration list, no, it states that a queue list is a template class that provides a dynamic array. It is part of Qt's generic container classes. It stores its items in adjacent memory location and provides fast index-based access. QList should be your default choice in terms of use cases. If you need a real linked list which guarantees consistent time insertion mid-list and uses iterators to items rather than indexes, I should then instead use the standard list. See. Here's an example of a queue list that stores integers and one that stores queue strings. Okay, but I don't need any of that. Let me just go figure out how this will work. So a queue list, it constructs an empty list, constructs a list with the initial size, constructs a list with the initial size, and each element is initialized with a value. Okay. And then I can create a list from the standard initializer list given by template arguments. slots. So I don't need any of that. What I need is the add, and there's something I need to read on because we have a requirement, and here it is here. Okay. You are expected to use Qt's meta object system to access the type of registration in registration list. Okay, so for that, let me open up my GitHub just to refresh my mind on what that entails. And if I come down to my projects, let me try to find it. It should be this one. Yeah, okay. It's not QObject. QObject. A QObject. Let's see. This is for signal and slots, which I have signals and slots, right? That's completely fair enough. However, what it should be instead is, wait a minute now. This is the wrong function. Yeah, definitely because I am in the wrong area. Here I am confusing myself. It should actually be this one, and it should be right here. My main, my software review, my software review, my software review dialog. That's also not right. Question 1, question 2. What's the difference here? Okay, so there is a difference, and I'm just blind apparently. Software, okay, there we go. So it also inherits from QObject, and then call QObject, and okay, and that's why I was told I'm allowed to use additional functionality if need be. If I go back here, and if I read this, you see down here it says, I can add new features to the classes given in the diagram, although I'm not allowed to delete or change given functions. And the reason I'm given that is because when you use Qt's meta object system to implement reflective programming, that is REFLECTIVE, reflective programming, you need to create Q properties which rely on a read and a write. And this read and this write are essentially get methods and setter methods. And for some reason my dog is barking. And I have no idea why. Alright, just a lot of things going wrong right now. Let me just figure it out. So I can also inherit publicly from QObject, which let me just do that. Public QObject, and within my class definition, I'll just come up here and I'll create the acknowledgement of QObject, okay? Cool. And I'll come back to this part later, but for now let me just try figuring out these functions. The first thing I want to do is add registration. I think that's important, to add registration, which is here. If I come down to my queue list, how do I can just do an append. I'm sure I can just write to it, right? So append. Inserts value at the end of the list, okay. But what I also need to do, let me add another function, which I can add right now, which will be Boolean. Oh, I can just use the is registered to do it. Okay, that's cool. So I don't need to add another one. And let's make sure no two registrations are allowed to have this attendees with the same email address unless the names are different. I should be able to query a registration list whether by person to see if they are already registered for the conference. Okay, so then the simplest function to do would be to return the size of my queue list. I think that is obviously the easiest. Do I have a direct size function or member anywhere? I don't really see one. Let me look around. Oh, I have a size. Okay, that's cool. It returns the number of items in the list, which means I should be able to go here in my total registration. But why do you have a variable? That doesn't make any sense. An instance of registration list contains a list of registration pointers. Okay. No two registrations are allowed to have attendees with the same email address unless the names are different. So in actual reality, this is something that I check for. Okay, I check for that. I should be able to query a registration list by the name to see if they are already registered for the conference. That's why. So that variable that's passed to the function is used to see if that person exists. Cool. A registration list can also return the number of attendees they are registered from an institution. From an institution. I see. Okay. A little weird wording there, but it's not as bad as LeetCode's wording. Solomon. Just want to check on something, and then we'll get back to code. So total registered. String A. And then I have registration list. I have total fee. I have is registered. And is registered passed a name and determines if that name exists. Which means I'll have to access it, or I can try to access it. Maybe I can do a try except. I can try doing that. It should work. So let me come up here and see what I have at my disposal. Do I have any find functions? First, front, insert, erase, lost, pop back, prepend, pushback. I just don't want to iterate over the entire list just to find a value. Okay, here's something I can reference. Returns the item at the index position. Oh, that won't work. Public types, public functions. It doesn't. I have an at, but it also takes an integer value. I mean, I should be passing n. And I don't want to iterate over the entire thing. It looks like I'll have to do it, however. Okay, so I'm gonna have to do that. So I'll do QList. I don't have an iterator. QList iterator. Let me go and find that. QList iterator. Here we go. It provides a Java-style constant iterator for QList and QQ. And I have some functionality, and here's how I use it. QList iterator. The values stored are going to be registrations, right? Which means my QList iterator I'm confused. whatever goes here, the type, will have to match the type of the function. I mean, of the variable. So in my case, it's going to be m underscore attendee list, right? That's what it is. However, m underscore attendee list are registrations. And I do not have an iterator for type registration. So what I will do is I'll pass in a QString, and I won't do any of this. No matching constructor. I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way, aren't I? For int I equal to 0, I is less than m underscore attendee list dot size I plus plus. And let me just do, for the simplest case, let me just do include QDebug. I'll include QDebug. And all I want to do is check QDebug. I'm going to print out that name T with a space. And I'll do that. And then I will do m attendee list at position I dot get attendee. Okay. And then I'll just print a new line. Invalid operands. QDebug. Huh? Why is it invalid? It should be right. QDebug in person. Yes, but person returns get attendee, which returns a QString. Am I wrong? Get attendee. Get name, my mistake, so it should be. So I and we go registration, which has get attendee, which returns m underscore get attendee, right? Which returns a person. Oh, okay. So get attendee dot get attendee dot toString. Cool. I'm just going to return some value for now, okay? And everywhere else, I'll just return some value. Delete. Cannot delete expression of type. Here's the thing, Qt has a much smarter management system. So, typically you don't have to necessarily delete everything, but if need be, let me do this. I will do for registration reg, just call it R, for my m underscore attendee list. I'm just gonna delete R, right? That's all I'm gonna do. And why do all of these? Expected after return state. Oh yeah, makes sense. Cool. Right. And for this, I'm just gonna return false for now. And this I'll just return false for now. I just want to do one thing. Oh wait, add registration. This should return true because I want to do something with it. M underscore attendee list dot append R. Okay. If I go to my main and if I call that registration list, this is gonna have to be a reference, isn't it? Yeah. And then I should pass in student and guest. Cool. And let me do a Q. I want to do a Q debug actually. I just call registration list dot not is registered. Which one should I be calling? Let me just check. It is. Why is it that in my total fee? I shouldn't be doing this in my total fee. This should actually be in my is registered area. You in the wrong place. It should be here. Cool. Use of undeclared identifier. What's the identifier? T. Where am I? Oh, T. Okay. It should be N. Cool. Should be N. And it does a Q debug. Registration list is registered. And I'll pass in the name Azura. That's all I'm going to do. And I'm also going to print out a bunch of new lines. Azura affiliate. No, that's wrong. It should come back at registration list. Dot get attendee, which is a person, right? And then dot get name. That's what it should be. Cool. And now I'll do Control B to bold. And I'll do Control R to run. And then we have it. This is what it should be, right? It should do is registered to check if they're registered. Okay. And I will have to move on because I have something else to do right now, but yes. So I need to fix a lot of this, which I will get done by today. Cool. Well, that's all for this video.